This is Things I Found Online.
Cut to Larry, please.
With Louise Palanker, Joe Cipriano, Larry Morgan, and more. Beware, radio legends are exploring the internet. Louise.
Hi, Larry.
Hey.
That's a true Hollywood fact. Radio legends are exploring the internet. Today, you and I qualify as the radio legends, and as the internet, we have Kirk Rudell. Give it up, everybody. Kirk Rudell will be portraying the part
Of the internet?
Now, Kirk,
your,
are
your greatest role yet.
on your business card. Does it say TV writer? What does it say?
Writer producer.
So when
on
you
the
go
card
to the
I don't
dentist,
have. Yeah.
when you go to the dentist,
When I have
and
to
it's
fill in something.
it says occupation.
Yep.
You put in
Writer/producer.
Does your tax return say that?
Farmer.
Oh,
Actually,
interesting.
no, it's funny. I have a writer friend who lists farmer because his family was Central Valley, and that is
you can just do that?
There is some family interest in some land up there still that that he inherited, and so that was, he may not do it anymore, but for years he still was listed as farmer.
I wonder if you could just change. It's like, I want to say banjo tuner.
Who's going to check?
I don't think they check.
Yeah.
They don't have time.
I don't think they check. You can also use a fake name at Starbucks. They don't check.
They don't check.
No.
Yeah. They don't ask for ID. But for some reason at Starbucks, they ask me for ID. What's that about?
That's just so they can learn how to spell Larry. They just need to look at it. L-A. Okay. Here you go. So we have a lot to discuss today because
Off to a good start.
Kirk is a qualified and quantifiable TV writer.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, you know and hang out with Roseanne, correct?
I do not hang out with Roseanne. I have hung out with, I've been in many rooms where people who have been on Roseanne in the first iteration have shared stories.
Okay.
That's what happens in rooms is everyone meets up and everyone's worked on other shows, and then you end up just talking about
And
other
you
shows
play a
you've been on.
game called Who's Crazier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
So
I have connections to Roseanne because my son is very good friends with the son of one of the creators of the original Roseanne. Who
Awesome.
was not invited back for this one.
Ooh.
And may have been responsible for the quote about it working on that show was kind of like working in Lebanon or something like that. And then my good friend Pete Siegel worked on the Jackie Thomas show, which was Tom Arnold's entree into primetime TV.
Well, based on the way they go through Becky's, I would assume it's traumatic. So, Roseanne is back, following in the path of Will and Grace and everything old is new again. Or wouldn't we love to see what these characters are up to? Let's see if the actors are available. Boom, let's do it.
Especially 90s stuff.
Yeah. There were so many good sitcoms. So, and Roseanne was Will and Grace, Roseanne, they were groundbreaking sitcoms, and they brought to the conversation some really important topics that we as Americans maybe weren't openly discussing as openly as they needed to be discussed. And Roseanne, certainly I think she may have had the first lesbian character or the first lesbian kiss, and it was beyond, is Tootie going to lose her virginity? Lucy was controversial because they weren't allowed to say the word pregnant, I guess.
With child, but yes.
Right, so with every generation, sitcoms seem to be kind of pushing the envelope of what we as a society need to be discussing.
Is the single guy going to be single again this week?
Oh, my God.
That was a big one, too.
Pressing issues.
Yeah.
I think my memory of Roseanne was before they kind of got into controversial issues, after they had established themselves, the big thing at the beginning was that they were kind of really showing the family dynamic in a way that you hadn't seen before, which was not everybody was getting along. There wasn't a lesson that you learned at the end. There was parents openly disparaging their children as part of the jokes, but that there was still a family unit, and you could still be that way and be at odds with each other and still find love and support each other, right? I mean, is that...
Yes, absolutely. You said it very well. It was very raw and very real and very hilarious. So you loved these people and you loved their love for each other, even despite the door slamming and the angry, sarcastic belittling that...
It wasn't the Cosby Show.
It wasn't the Cosby Show,
No.
but
again, you can, and to your point, you can like the art and dislike the artist. So Cosby could be a horrible person, but the show was important and relevant. And Roseanne could be unpleasant and ask that the writers wear numbered T-shirts because she didn't want to learn their names. And she liked to fire them pretty regularly. And so she just requested that all the writers, so she wouldn't have to learn names, would just wear numbers so she could be angry at number 4 or fine with number 10. And the story I always heard was that Norm Macdonald refused to wear a numbered T-shirt when he was on the show. And there was some big argument in the writer's room before walking down to a run-through because they were begging him, please, just don't set her off. Just put the numbered T-shirt on. I know you don't like it, but it's easier to just wear the number T-shirt than deal with the fight we're going to have with her if you don't wear the number T-shirt.
So what happened?
I don't know. I don't think he wore it, though. I want to believe Norm didn't wear the T-shirt, but I don't know.
He should have worn like a letter, just to be obstinate.
But that's it. So again, the show can be good and the person behind it can be monstrous.
Yeah, and
Ricky and Lucy could have, have whatever the marriage they portrayed, it didn't matter what their actual relationship was like. So
sure, anyway. I mean, there's a family that you create, an image that you present, and then there's whatever is going on behind the scenes that exists. And even when Roseanne was on for the first time, we would hear stories of how awful it was and that there were kids on the set that were witnessing all of this, and that makes it doubly bad, in my opinion. But, here they are.
Yeah, they're getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be fine. Because kids never have problems being stars in television early in life. It all works out.
It shows this life.
The difference, though, is now, the big difference is, even though the internet was a thing when Roseanne was on originally, all of the details and their lives were not necessarily played out in a way immediately like on this new iteration, which got so much attention, got so many eyeballs on it, and then within days, suddenly there was this big kerfuffle and hoopla and hootenanny.
All right, so here's the gist of kerfuffle. What was it? Kerfuffle, hootenanny. What did I miss one?
Brouhaha.
Brouhaha.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. A dust up.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so Roseanne. So once you can kind of like hibernate and be a little bit crazy, like Frank Stallone or the Love Connection guy.
Chuck Woolery.
Yeah. And that's okay. But then, once she's back on network TV, everyone's looking through everything she ever tweeted in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So now she's got to be accountable for all of this stuff.
Because she's been crazy. We just haven't been paying attention to she ran for president.
Correct.
Do you remember that? Does anybody remember that?
That's
she actually, she was on the ballot for president.
Right.
See, and this is the thing that if only Donald Trump had learned by example, you should have just had a sitcom. Donald.
Sure.
And then we could have looked up all your old tweets and seen how they were in direct opposition to your current point of view and went, haha, but you'd only just be a sitcom star and we wouldn't be heading to the brink of doom. All right, so Roseanne Connor is the character she plays, who's just a regular Midwestern Trump voter, which there's plenty of. And the idea is to show that when her sister Jackie voted for Hillary and she voted for Trump, it caused a rift and they haven't spoken in over a year. And that's kind of a pretty typical scenario and an interesting one to portray. And so Roseanne Connor is legit normal in terms of people that voted for Trump and why they voted for Trump. And the arguments that they have are indicative of those conversations that we've had with friends and family. Like, how could you vote for that guy? Well, jobs. But the actual Roseanne Barr, she's kind of a little further right than Roseanne Connor. Mm-hmm. She's tweeting and she's linking her tweets to far right wing conspiracy theories, which claim that the Mueller probe of foreign meddling in the 2016 election is a distraction from his real investigation into Democrats tied to a pedophile network. The sourcing is an anonymous account on 4chan called Q, who claims to be a government operative. Q promises that Clinton, Obama, Podesta, Abedin, and even McCain are all either arrested and wearing secret police-issued ankle monitors or just about to be indicted, that the Steele dossier is a total fabrication personally paid for by Clinton and Obama. And can I stop right there and say, if it's a fabrication, then why are people paying for it? Okay. And that the Las Vegas massacre was most definitely an inside job connected to the Saudi Clinton cabal.
Wow. That's a bad rabbit hole to go down, which I did once.
That's a rough
You
one.
did? You went there?
Yeah, the Las Vegas shooting rabbit hole, which is that the Saudis had bought the top 2 floors of that hotel. Helicopters were seen landing and taking off. There was a second shooter on the ground that no one's talking about, and that it was related to the Saudi crown prince and his roundup of some relatives and a helicopter crash of another royal family member.
Oh, my
It's deep.
gosh.
It's really deep. They can't believe that one crazy white guy with a gun could have possibly done that himself.
See, now, do either of you guys believe in any conspiracy theories? Because I do think that sometimes there can be something that's kept secretive that's actually true. I mean, I don't want to jump on everyone here because unless we were there and witnessed it, what the truth is whatever happened, but we don't always know what ever happened.
I don't want to be naive, but I'm generally skeptical of conspiracy theories because people like to share secrets. Yeah. People like to talk. That's it. I don't believe that if something like that happened, that everyone involved, there was a book, Case Closed, about the Kennedy assassination. Gerald Posner wrote it. And he basically, as he constructed the book, he would sort of stop periodically and go, at this point, that's 24 more people who would have to have never mentioned this to anyone in their lives. Right. And it adds up, and it's hundreds, it's thousands of people. And so I sort of feel like human nature doesn't let that happen.
I think that we would, if any of these were true, in fact true, that we would have at least a few cases over the history of time where this kind of thing would have been cracked open and everybody would go, oh my gosh, the so-and-sos were right about that. And there just haven't been that many cases of that happening. I think the Kennedy thing is a prime example where over time there is probably enough evidence to show that there's maybe an element of truth to the fact that Oswald was manipulated by outside sources in a way that we didn't know. But that's kind of about it. Like there's a shading of, oh yeah, there's stuff we don't know that maybe got hidden or wasn't talked about or CIA related. You can probably believe there's a lot of covert stuff going on in the world with government agencies. But the kind of stuff that we're talking about here gets so out there and is so completely fabricated in order to further some sort of political agenda, or for that matter, there's just people effing with us. There's just people who's just trying to play a God game where they want you to believe this outlandish thing.
And look at Jill McCabe, right? Andrew McCabe's wife, the doctor who wrote the Washington Post editorial about essentially the conspiracy theories that have cropped up about her, and that she took Clinton money and was part of the Podesta cabal. And it's like, it's insane stuff, but it's a lot of noise and people get distracted, and not everyone has time to stay informed every day, or they have their 2 sources they get stuff from. My wife has aunts who get everything from Facebook memes. And it is frightening. And that's it. And where I started...
Wait, say that again?
And all of her news comes from crazy Facebook memes.
That's not good.
And
that's not good.
And then you see this stuff enough and you go, all right, we can talk about voting tests. Sure. Yeah, I got some. I'll write the questions. I'm starting to come around on maybe not everyone has the right to vote.
So this brings me to the question, have humans on Earth always either gravitated towards the truth that suited them or the truth they were taught by those who sought to control them?
Because say that again, because I didn't expect to think this much today.
I know that we can get a theory out there faster, but don't you think that humans were always led by someone's agenda to believe, either through religion or through the politics of the city-state within which they lived, that, this is the answer to your crops growing and,
Sure.
There's just always been reasons to try and control people's thoughts.
It's because people as a group tend to need to have that to look to, whether you call it religion or mythology, going back, that people need to know that there is someone who has answers because that is a comfort to them. I just finished watching this Netflix documentary, Wild Wild Country, about the Bhagwan in Oregon, the Rajneeshis, who basically took over Antelope, Oregon.
Watching it,
And I also, not to be really too creepy about it, but I just read a pretty amazing book about Jonestown, which came out this past year. But the idea of collective thinking,
it's hilarious,
and the
I read that book. It was so funny.
It is so good. But it's I am fascinated by the idea of that cults result from a certain leader's usually very good intentions on the surface of whether it's doing good for other people or having a direct line from God, or it's always motivated by something that looks and sounds altruistic, and when it turns ugly, the followers stay right there with you, and there is this kind of group mentality, cult mentality, whatever that is. People will stay in it as long as they can, right up until something really horrific happens.
Because they don't want to have to rewrite their story.
Right.
That's the story that they've wrapped their world around.
Yeah.
And it would be extremely painful and difficult and intense work to have to unwrap that. You'd be floating in the wind or flapping around in the breeze. And so you don't want to do that.
You don't want to be untethered and suddenly your belief system is completely destroyed. And then it's like, well, what do I believe now? Because that fell apart.
Yeah, and I honestly think that most modern religions or accepted conventional religions started with a charismatic cult leader. And sort of long after that person's death, it becomes more normal and things become normalized, and the rituals become yearly events, and this is what we do, and there's no longer you're not rolling out a red carpet and driving a guy around in a Cadillac. So, which is what happens in this cult. It's like when you're following one person who's this charismatic and who has that much control and power over a group of people and all are alive on planet Earth at the same time, it's different than believing in Jesus. It just has a different feel to it when you're actually worshiping a fellow human. Mm-hmm. It feels that's what makes something feel like a cult. But I honestly think that most religions started as some sort of cult.
Well, you could look at almost any religion. If somebody were coming completely with an alien, the whole thing about an alien coming out, or somebody who's just been not exposed to it, you could, I don't want Catholics to get on me, but you could go for the very first time, go to a Catholic Mass, and the number of ritual things that are a part of that, the incense and the priest and the communion. I mean, they're saying, okay, they're going to kneel down now, and they're taking a piece of a biscuit that is supposed to be the body of Christ, and then they're drinking the blood of Christ. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Catholic Church is filled with those rituals that people absolutely are beholden to at every service they do. But that could look from anybody else's perspective as an extreme version of following, a religion or something. It can, almost any, my point is, they all look like they start with almost a cult-like kind of following.
Yeah, and so I think there is a basic human need to believe in something, because so much of life is scary, and so much of life is us going, why are we here? What are we doing? And what happens when we're gone? And so if you can have absolute total faith that it's A, B, and C, those are the answers to your very difficult questions, and you no longer need to ponder them, and go ahead and make some lovely barbecue. Get on with the business of being alive, because you don't need to be confounded every day by those huge questions. Sometimes I envy the people with complete and total faith.
Totally. I think the people who have a very total faith are usually at peace with that, and I'm not. I can readily admit I'm more at peace knowing I don't need to know all the answers, and that really frustrates people. It's not even, I don't want to get real specific about my spiritual beliefs or whatever, but I'm okay with only knowing up to a certain point, because I recognize that for the most part, and I'm speaking for myself here, but I really do believe most human beings are stupid. We really don't have the capacity to look beyond our immediate physical life. I do believe there's way much more to believe in that I don't understand, and I'm okay with not understanding. And I think people who have a really distinct faith, that is a great comfort to them, and that they totally believe in that, and that's why I'm okay with respecting that. But even just in terms of, like every day, I'm always trying to catch myself to make sure that I'm not knee-jerking to, for instance, agreeing with everything that might end up on the left or the liberal side of things. I don't want to be the culty, oh yeah, I'm going to agree with everything that so-and-so says because it's different than what that other thing says. Have you ever found yourself trying to catch yourself and making sure you're not just automatically saying, he's right, he's wrong, boo, and not kind of be open to the idea.
If we get a bad guy on our side, I'm like, he needs to go. I hope I'm on the side of just the truth and the right thing to do and kindness and decency and integrity and honor. And so if there's a Democrat who's behaving badly, that person, like Rod Blagojevich, needs to go. John Edwards, sorry, goodbye. It was nice, but you're a fraud.
See, that's where I'm at. I'm kind of questioning everything now. I'm a little worried that I don't even know what the right side of things. I mean, that's how crazy it's gotten for me. Is that I don't know what the right side is anymore. I can't. I'm trying to get in touch with my own real feelings because we're so inundated with messages that are so strong and so well thought out and so beautifully worded. Again. Humans, stupid, especially me. And so I don't want to be so easily swayed by people who are very eloquent in their arguments. And I wish I had the time to sift through everything and really figure out what it all means.
And that's our thing, too. I think people are superstitious and fearful. And so, yes, I think that it's easy. Conspiracy theories or follow this leader is just how we're programmed. It's Salem witch trials, or it's the Pharaoh is holy. Let's all build a pyramid for our entire lives. Or that's just, okay, fine. Just give me something to do. Where do I fit in?
Fucking fidget spinners. I mean, how did that happen?
But I think, right now, I think that
just trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
But
because we were talking about Roseanne 2 minutes ago.
But I do think just getting back to that, social media, I think just sort of, again, this has been said, but weaponizes and speeds up the velocity of all that stuff. So yes, we're superstitious, we're fearful, conspiracy theories go, but instead of them hitting one town in Massachusetts, they now spread across the country. And so Roseanne...
There's witches everywhere.
Yeah, and so that's it. So Roseanne can talk about lizard people. Like, she was a rich macadamia nut farmer in Hawaii that we could all have finally forgotten about. I don't know, passing out over her cereal with whatever meds she's on. And we didn't have to think about Roseanne. And now she's back with millions of Twitter followers, and she can hit lizard people if she wants, and that spreads, and it's influential. And I think that is, yes.
I think we're going to need more backstage Roseanne stories. Yeah. Go.
It's funny.
This is too good.
There's some I can't share because they could be traceable to one person in particular in a couple of cases. But I will say my rant on Roseanne when that show came back was just that the thing we're supposed to be excited about with Roseanne is, it shows both sides. It's both sides. Yeah, she's the Trump supporter, but the show's about both sides. And I feel that right now, the Trumpism in the country and the GOP in this country has blown out the middle. There is no middle on most issues right now. So this whole both sides thing is cosmetic. It's a bullshit argument. What's the both sides argument of climate change? Like, I think you either believe in science or you don't.
Yeah.
So
what's the both sides argument of the Me Too movement?
That's right.
Of it's okay to harass.
So I think, but you have Republicans saying, let's do a blue ribbon panel to really talk about the science again and do an A team, B team thing on climate change. Let's really debate it. It's like, no, the debate has happened. It's been happening. There's a scientific consensus. So when you pretend there's two sides to that issue, it just kicks the can down the road, and I think it lets people like Roseanne feel that they are contributing to the debate, and they're part of the social discourse. And I'm just a citizen with my opinion, and all opinions are valid. We all have them. My feeling that it's cold outside means that your evidence on global warming, it's a draw. It's a draw. It's 1-1. We're tied. Yeah. We can bring in some more votes now. And so I think that's my thing, is that this whole idea that the show's valid because it's going to show both sides of issues. We don't have two sides. We have a fake two sides of a lot of the big issues that we have today. Again, like What is the argument on equal rights for LGBTQ community, or it's like, either you believe everyone should be treated equally or you don't. Either you believe that Muslim Americans are full Americans or you don't. Like this whole they need to be tested differently and they're not really, that's a fake argument. And so I think that, again, that this whole let's embrace that Roseanne's given us that look at the debate. No, those aren't real debates. But we tell ourselves that they are real debates so that everyone can feel like they're a real citizen.
Well, I think there'll always be a place in America for conservative values, and conservative values means many different things to many different people. It's not always about the social issues. It's not always about climate change. And for example, I'm fangirling over Steve Schmidt and Richard Painter and Bill Kristol and all of these rational conservative voices who are speaking out against Trump because they're so bright and intelligent. And I never would have listened to them before Trump because I would have thought, I'm a Democrat.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Nicole Wallace is doing great.
They're saving the world right now.
Yeah,
yes.
and my grandfather would have been one of those people.
I think you make a great point, Kurt. And I just realized that what the first episode anyway. And by the way, that's the only episode that's been on, right? There's only been one freaking episode so far.
My mind is made up.
I've watched one.
I didn't watch it.
and
my mind is made up. She made the writers were numbers.
I'm done. I watched
and other stuff I can't tell you.
I have two thoughts about it, but I think you're absolutely right. The two sides they're portraying are basically the two most extreme sides you can portray, and there's no way that they can coexist. I do believe, and I've always felt this way, that most people in this country are way more shades of gray than we usually give them credit for, because I do believe that most people in this country can get along and find common ground about most things while still having some distinct differences and be on opposing ends of the spectrum about, some people can be fiscally conservative but be very liberal on social issues.
Right.
They can feel very inclusive about all sorts of different backgrounds, but also have a reason to believe that there is some immigration reform. Gun control is varying degrees of what you believe, and it's not about taking all your guns away. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that episode...
And by the way, which is a great example, because all the polling on gun control is we are a country that completely accepts the shades of gray.
There should be some more control.
That's right.
There's and is a tiny fraction of the people, mostly NRA supporters, who believe that it is about taking all our guns away, which is exactly the opposite of what people are trying to say. So to me, I think you're right on the nose that that episode was showing extreme this side. Here's Jackie in the pussy cap and Roseanne representing whatever that other extreme is, which, by the way, we don't need them to identify the fact that the world is divided. And it seems such a wasted effort of, and the fact that 18 frickin' million people saw that.
It's like a minstrel show version of the actual debate that we should be having.
Wow.
That's all. And I think that's what's so frustrating. It's right. It's I'm going to be loud and I'm going to be loud, and then let's pretend that that's what we need to be talking about.
And this is what our family is like. And I don't know anybody's family that's like that.
Well,
let me one other major objection to that episode of Roseanne. It wasn't that funny.
No, it wasn't that funny.
It just wasn't funny.
And first episodes often aren't, and I'll give it that kind of space to find its voice. But the one argument that I thought was kind of real was where Jackie said that, you made me question my choice so much that I went into the voting booth and cast a vote for Jill Stein. Yeah. So it was almost like Roseanne was so indoctrinated by whatever Russia was feeding her that she talked her sister into not voting the way that her heart and soul were telling her to vote for Hillary. And so it was an interesting family dialogue about them pushing each other further into their corners, I guess. And the other interesting thing about the show is that they kind of feel they kind of are taking the stance that, like, all right, well, this is a family of Trump voters who have a black kid and a trans kid. And it's like, if you guys have a black kid and a trans kid, then why are you voting for Trump?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't square that.
I also, it was interesting because I know that Laurie Metcalf has a reputation for being a relatively progressive person. Sarah Gilbert certainly as
she's
an
fantastic.
out lesbian, and they both had their own. I know Sarah Gilbert had her own response that she felt like it was kind of evenly matched, and she wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been, and that sort of thing. And I'm not sure that I'm buying any of those arguments. It was just such a sledgehammer over the head.
No, and again, I get it. I had a little tweet thread on this that encapsulated what I just spent 5 minutes ranting about in 200 words, or 200 characters, whatever. But I get it. People need to make money. So I get it. For ABC, they want 18 million viewers. Sarah's going to produce it. Whitney Cummings is going to produce it. People are going to put their names on it. And I get it. And writers are going to work on the show because they got to make a living. I understand it.
Right,
but let's not pretend it's something it's not.
Would we still be as upset about it and talking about it? And I think there was maybe a New York Times opinion piece on this or something somewhere. But would we be as upset about that first episode if she hadn't taken the call from Trump and tweeted about that and tweeted about the other thing?
Yes, Larry. I was just going to pose the question, very much like the question you just posed.
All right.
Only
but
mine
better?
will insert a tweet.
Ooh.
Would we feel the same about the show if Roseanne hadn't, what Larry just said, and tweeted, President Trump has freed so many children held in bondage to pimps all over the world. Hundreds each month. He has broken up trafficking rings in high places everywhere. Would we feel the same about the show if Roseanne were played by Carol O'Connor? It's a good question.
I would not be as worked up about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's giving an idiot a giant megaphone,
right?
And it just drives me crazy.
I think that's my point. I think if it had been what it was, and it was a big giant sledgehammer of a kind of obvious, it would have been a sitcom trope of I'm on this side, okay. If she didn't have that kind of baggage, if she didn't have that kind of personal belief, which is impossible to separate from a character who is essentially a direct reflection of herself, which is what the original sitcom was created for anyway, as a mouthpiece for her. If we had none of that background and she had none of that baggage, it would be much more benign, even if 18 million people did see it. Which, by the way, was based on pure nostalgia, I think.
But again, it's not just the tweets. The tweets are annoying, and it makes it worse. But even her identifying as a Trump voter, and other people have said this very eloquently, but it's a and you just said it too, it's a whitewashed version. You said it. Everyone's saying it. It's a whitewashed version of a Trump voter.
Right.
It's not just about economic insecurity. If you're a Trump supporter now, you got to be all in on the racism, the sort of the bigotry and the cruelty. You have to be all in on what's Ben Carson? What did he do today? That's the thing. Every once in a while, I sort of step back from the headlines, the obvious shit that's going wrong. Let's try to roll back, EPA stuff, right?
Yep.
Ben Carson quietly did something terrible today. Right? I mean, he's in charge of HUD. He has no idea what he's doing. He is destroying the lives of millions of people in a way that doesn't get headlines because there's no room for him. There's no oxygen for that stuff.
They're dismantling our framework. We don't have an administration that's getting things done. We have an administration that's getting things undone, confusing and terrifying us. They're creating terror. When he repeals DACA, he's creating terror. He's a terrorist. When he takes healthcare away from people, he's a terrorist. There are people who are terrified that they won't be able to pay for the medicine and the treatments that they need to stay alive. So, yeah, I feel like we're in free fall. Like there's a train that's just very slowly buckling off of a bridge.
So when again, sort of reasonably well-informed citizens can sort of see what's going on, it's frustrating that that has to be countered by something, and it gets countered by Russian troll farm fed memes that put conspiracy theories out and pollute the waters and make things more difficult to get to wrap your head around. It's enormously frustrating.
So I think we all want to do something. The question is, does boycotting help? Can I have a round of applause for that segue, please? I think it was well executed. Yeah. I completely landed it.
Yeah.
Is it possible to boycott big tech without using big tech to announce your boycott.
You guys can insert that applause later, right?
Yeah.
Make it just like huge
So
response.
Throughout American history, we've kind of like used the boycott as a form of civil unrest that's peaceful protest. And it's not just using your voice, it's also using your actions or your lack of action. I'm not buying grapes. No grapes on this table, Mom. I've read the newspaper, no grapes.
Right.
So, and certainly the bus boycott was effective. It was really instrumental in the civil rights movement, and people suffered because people walked 5 miles back and forth to work, and it ultimately worked. So, boycotting has worked. The question that I pose to you guys is, in this age of our platform or the way that we kind of interact with one another being social media, is it ironically funny or is it effective to go on Facebook and say, I'm leaving Facebook?
It's very ironic, for sure. Is it going to have an impact? Absolutely not.
Especially when the next sentence is, find me on Instagram, which is owned by Facebook.
Yeah. I think we're past the example you give is a great one. I mean, I think that boycotts can work on a very central, very focused and usually smaller scale. I know, Yelp can totally destroy the business of some, great, local family restaurant if they piss off a couple of people, and that's a terrible example of it. But I think you can boycott on a small scale and have some impact. I don't think you can say I'm leaving Facebook and there's going to be some sort of mass exodus that's going to impact that business. I don't think Amazon is going to fall apart tomorrow because President Trump just said, terrible things about them. Another example of, just sending
bully pulpits.
Certain things into a free fall. I don't see how that works. I mean, I do know. Look, when all that story about Uber came out about how people were being treated and some of the sexual harassment issues, and I took them off my phone and I don't use them anymore. I haven't heard it. Uber doesn't exist anymore, right? So that one paid off.
Yep.
Good job.
Because I don't see them every other car along Wilshire Boulevard.
Nicely
right now.
done, Larry.
Yeah, you got it, guys. So that one totally worked.
Sure.
Yeah.
So a couple of fun examples. Ryan Knight, a Democratic activist, was outraged when Apple did not remove NRA TV from its streaming video options. He tweeted, "Dear @Apple, your silence is deafening. #boycott Apple." He tweeted this from his iPhone. Breitbart will be hosting a panel on how high-tech platforms like Facebook suppress conservative voices. They will be live streaming it on Facebook. Cher recently deactivated her Facebook page in protest to their work with Cambridge Analytica. Cher's Instagram account is still active. Instagram, of course, is owned by Facebook. So boycotts are powerful, peaceful activism, and they give us a voice that then becomes an action. The grape boycott worked. The bus boycott worked. But Facebook is not just a bus or a grape. It's how we connect and communicate. What else could we do? Like, I know that we have those go-to places, which is like, a boycott simply meant I don't want to watch a Mel Gibson movie because he's an anti-Semite or Woody Allen or what have you. Like, it's just the kind of I can't look at him kind of thing where it's like, I'm not trying to affect change. I just don't want to look at him.
I don't want to put any money in his pocket by supporting that piece of.
But what else could we do when it becomes this funny that I don't mean to make fun of Ryan Knight I do mean to make fun of Breitbart, but I certainly don't make fun of Cher.
I think
a
good boycott, it can't be a bluff. You got to actually do it, right?
Yeah.
So you can't sit there and go, I'm not going to order from Amazon anymore.
And then, damn, I'm out of laundry soap.
I need batteries. Like, it's just so you gotta back it up.
Except for this one thing, because I subscribed and it's a great deal. But everything else, not anymore.
I do have a Prime account,
and I think a lot of I think the most effective ones and the most powerful ones, there has to be some element of personal sacrifice too.
Right.
I think that's the bus, and that's the problem. It's like, it's like was it My Pillow? Is that the one for Laura Ingraham where the guy defiantly announced that he will not pull his advertising? It's like, well, I'm not going to get a My Pillow. Like, I could boycott My Pillow, but it was never part of my life anyway. So, is it worth my hashtagging that? No, it's probably not.
I think all three of us can boycott My Pillow right now. I mean, starting now.
And if I got the name of the company wrong, I'm sorry. good people at MyPillow. If it's MePillow, it might be MePillow. I don't know.
It is MyPillow.
There's some comment, but again, like it has to be something that would be a part of your life.
It's like Lent. You have to feel it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just empty
Well, it's kind of like
gestures.
the conspiracy thing. I mean, is there any boycott of some major national product that has the company ever just kind of disappeared because there has been that kind of boycott?
Well, Laura Ingraham is on vacation, Larry.
Well, no, I'm talking about if somebody, are people just going to suddenly stop buying MyPillows because of that? Are we going to forget about it because the news cycle now is literally within hours? I mean, you and I might decide not to get MyPillows. I'm certainly going to rest not very uneasy tonight on the one I got for free that was offered up to me by my radio station.
Okay.
That gives me amazing support and the nicest night's sleep. I will probably toss and turn a little extra tonight because I know how much comfort it's giving me.
What's the name of your pillow, Larry? I may want to get one.
It's my pillow, not your pillow.
Okay.
But I forgot what my question was.
No,
But
you're saying has it ever worked?
Does it work on a grand scale like that? Because our company's too big, and even when companies pull their advertising from Laura Ingraham, if Laura Ingraham comes back in a couple of weeks, and a year from now, are they just going to
quietly come back
No,
on?
Bill O'Reilly did not come back.
That's a great one. That's a great example of it working.
Yes, but was it the boycott that worked, or was it the circumstance that worked?
Well, yeah, he was
it's
pretty
tough.
rapey.
He had been getting away with that for a long time, and it hadn't stopped him. So they'd been settling suits, and it wasn't. And again, I think the Me Too explosion put more of a spotlight on it.
Yes, it did.
And
I just don't think the advertisers are dropping out of those things because they think they're going to lose business. I think they're dropping out because they do not want to be associated with something that in that moment is very unsavory.
You're right. It is performative.
Yeah.
So
it's the same pantomime, exactly.
If we're upset with Facebook's collaboration with Cambridge Analytica or with them taking Russian rubles to run ads that were clearly designed to have an impact on our consciousness and our ability to think for ourselves. In other words, if Facebook is trying to brainwash us, what can we do short of boycotting Facebook? How can we put pressure on them to be more accountable and to have more integrity in terms of how they disseminate information to us? In other words, with great power comes great responsibility. How can we
I have the answer.
All right.
We have to start being smarter people. I think it's ridiculous to boycott Facebook as opposed to saying, you know what, I'm going to stay on Facebook because it is an amazing way for me to communicate with people that I want to communicate with, to put up a beautiful happy birthday to my wife, Charla. Hi, Charla. Happy birthday to my wife today, because
Charla.
It was a place that I wanted to share with other people and have other people weigh in on the fact that she's an amazing woman and share that day with her. I am going to be smarter about what impact Facebook has on me in terms of what I'm believing, what I'm seeing, what I'm viewing. I'm going to curate. I was just talking about this with my son because he just had this conversation on his podcast about being more actively curating what it is I'm seeing and what I'm looking at every day and believing, for that matter.
But that's not holding their feet to any fire. That's just you kind of trying to curate your own experience. How can we, as a populace, enforce good conscious thinking on the part of a huge corporation like Facebook so that they're not abusing us?
Well, do you not think that they're addressing that now because it's been exposed?
Well, the scary thing is
the
answer. I think the answer, unfortunately, the answer is our government, which is a scary answer to give right now. But that's the answer. Is it's the UK is doing it. It's coming in for congressional hearings and potentially receiving some sort of government restrictions or guardrails put on them, which is or penalties put on them. Again, is there a case that could be made that if Facebook had a harmful effect or was basically collaborating with Russian intelligence in affecting our election, they could be liable for something? And so I think those are the protections. So now suddenly they're like, and this is your point, like suddenly like, okay, we're going to change our filters. We're going to screen stuff out. We're going to, okay. I think it took that to make it happen.
Right.
Not, angry,
so it's not
progressive
about,
people.
Yeah. So it's not about dropping out of something that you actually feel could be useful, but it's voting one way or the other for potential legislation or politicians who actually understand that we have to have some sort of oversight in this world without destroying net neutrality and some of the freedom that comes with that. But there is some responsibility and some accountability that's kind of running unchecked.
Look, the model is Wall Street, I think, which is the same thing. Again, sort of unfettered idiots on Wall Street are the same as unfettered idiots in Silicon Valley who equate having money with being smart.
Interesting.
So
and having it
the
at
currency
any,
is
at
the
all
currency.
costs.
Yeah. So again, so people on Wall Street who could not explain what a credit default swap was, didn't understand their own products, but were making huge bonuses, took it as a given that they were super smart. Right? I'm rich. I got to be really smart. I got to know what I'm doing. And then they drag the entire world economy down. And so I think
that sounds like somebody who could run for president.
That's right. And so again, and in Silicon Valley, it's like we got killer apps. We're killing it on the IPO.
We have all the eyes. We have all the attention. We have all the engagement. We win.
I'm super rich. We must know what we're doing. Oh shit, we didn't even understand our own product. We did not even understand how our product was being corrupted. It's the same as Wall Street, and what worked on Wall Street to some extent is financial regulation.
Wow.
And I think that's sort of the model is if the government can come in. Because there's no such thing as a free market. That's, again, it's another one of those sort of bullshit things that gets thrown out. No markets are free. Everything is regulated to some extent. There's always someone who's helping pick winners or put guardrails up. And so when there are financial regulations, our markets generally run smoother, and there are ups and downs. But the ups and downs, it's a more shallow wave up and down.
So it's like we humans have to protect ourselves from ourselves.
We're so stupid. We need to be
back to
I'm telling you, we are dumb.
We are like giant babies, and we need like soft things put on corners of tables for us, and we need rails put over staircases. We just need help, and I think I think the answer with Facebook and with Silicon Valley is the same answer that should be there for Wall Street, which is responsible, not intrusive regulation. But when we had financial regulations and the market was flying during the Obama years, great. And even those regulations didn't go as far as some people thought they should have gone, but there were some common sense things that were put in to protect liquidity and stuff. Let's just do that for Silicon Valley. But again, we're just ripping off all the regulations right now. Yeah. But when I'm president, that'll change.
But I have a fun Kirk for president.
Getting things undone. I like that. I liked your, that was a good slogan, by the way.
Getting things undone.
Getting things undone was that's a good slogan for
Put
the
that
GOP,
on a trucker cap.
Right?
I have a fun Facebook story.
No, I'm sorry. Get her undone.
Get her undone.
Thank you. And end episode.
All right. So this is a fun Facebook story. Reasons to stay on Facebook as follows. All right. So I made a film at the Women's March in D.C., that was the first Women's March the day after the inauguration. There were over 600,000 people at this march, and I was randomly asking participants, where are you from and why are you here? On Facebook, a friend named Tim Kim commented about the finished product. At 16:05 minutes into the movie, I saw Alexandra Paul of Baywatch fame, or her twin sister. Was that planned? And I read this comment and went, I do not understand comment. Confusion. Because I don't know who Alexandra Paul is, and I don't think I've watched Baywatch like in its entirety. So anyway, if you could cue up the film, John Maddox. So so it's 16. So
I believe her sister is a firefighter in San Francisco because my wife knows her.
This is crazy, Kirk. You're going to know her. Here she comes, ready. Okay, there she is. That's her. Go ahead. Turn up the volume.
Let's go. And we came because we believe we have to resist against sexism, racism, homophobia, all the baloney that he's doing right now. It's unbelievable. And trying to normalize. We're here to anti-normalize.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so hashtag anti-normalize. Now, I was with my friend Cheryl. We were standing on kind of a ledge, and we were just saying, hey, do you want to, you're there for 12 hours. So this was just, my husband had gone to the porta potty. That took about 2 hours. So we were just standing there saying, hey, and Cheryl was helping me. And Cheryl was like, I think Cheryl was like, you look familiar, but she was kind of like low-keying it, because she knows that her sister's on Baywatch, but, she just was like, I'm at a march. So right. She wasn't telling us who she was related to, even though we both thought she looked familiar. So Tim Kim has solved the mystery, and there's a blog post by Caroline Paul. Do you have that, John? I do. And it's When Your Twin is Famous.
There you go.
Read the title, Larry.
When your twin is a famous Baywatch star and you're not, by Caroline Paul.
And then, the subtitle is, hopefully Louise Palanker will interview you for her YouTube movie. No. So so I found her. I want to find everyone in my movie because I talked to 100 people and 50 of them maybe are in the movie. I want to find everyone in my movie and have, a reunion. Wouldn't that be fun?
So you're saying that's a good reason to stay on Facebook?
Except for that she hasn't responded to me.
Oh.
Yeah. So Caroline Paul.
I can probably track her down.
Okay. So your wife knows her.
Yes.
This is awesome.
This is too weird.
Yeah.
You didn't know she was going to do that.
Now, is that not the coolest chick in the world?
She is a bad.
She's
my
awesome.
understanding is she's super nice and she's a badass and she's a firefighter.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
she's a firefighter?
Right? Am I 99% sure
she's
that's
a writer
right?
/ firefighter.
Yeah.
Which you don't usually see.
Oh, everybody's got a slash these days. I got to get me a slash.
Writer firefighter's better than writer producer.
Broadcaster slash.
At least when you go to the dentist, put that in.
That'd be.
No one's going to check.
I'm going to be broadcaster / banjo tuner. I'm going to get that in somewhere.
Put something, yeah.
Yeah.
Jazz
All
it
right.
up.
So next week I'll let you know if I hear from, and maybe through your wife we can.
I will set that up.
A cliffhanger.
Yeah. So we
nice.
Reason to come back.
Nice.
All right. So are you guys aware of Generation Z? I don't know if your daughter qualifies for Generation Z or your son qualifies.
No, he's a millennial.
He's a millennial. Okay.
Yeah.
Gen Z. They are our first digital natives.
Yep.
They grew up with complete and total access to technologies. We talk often about the dangers of tech addiction and social pressures, but what about the blooming of a generation for whom the window of wonder was consistently filled with information? Curiosity can be immediately satisfied and lead to the next level of knowledge with one click. Is that producing a super breed of informed, engaged, and connected people? Is that what we are seeing in Parkland? So we used to go, oh, I wonder why that is. And then we'd wander around and forget that we ever had that question.
Pete Holmes has a great bit he used to do about waking up that we have the answers immediately.
Yes.
That we know everything. Whereas in the middle of the night, he would suddenly wake up and go, I wonder where Tom Petty's from, and just not know until you see somebody walking by with a Tom Petty t-shirt and go, hey.
And now if you actually say that aloud with Alexa plugged in, she'll tell you.
Yeah.
Even at 4 a.m.
Hey, Siri, where is Tom Petty from?
Tom Petty was born in Gainesville.
There we go. Gainesville,
Holy
Florida.
shit.
So if that's
Did you know
happening,
that? Anybody know that?
So Larry and Kirk, if that's happening while your brain is developing, what are we creating? Superhumans.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, I know it's a problem that their nose is always.
Are they going to kill us all? You're scaring me a little bit. It's kind of like cyborgs taking over and artificial intelligence becoming superior beings. What the hell's going to happen to us dumb people?
Get an axe. Keep it under the bed.
I got my axe under the bed.
So I don't know. Are you noticing it with your daughter? Like if it's a smart kid to begin with, just imagine where they can go with some curiosity.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to encourage them too much because then they'll decide they don't need us anymore and we'll be
I don't think it takes
put onto weird farms until
That's what I'm saying.
They've
already
But here's what you guys
yeah.
doesn't.
No, I don't want to encourage them more, but yes, they're pretty amazing.
Talk to John over there about Jasper going to learn robotics in middle school.
Well, before I throw to John, I just want to assure you parents that it doesn't fulfill any emotional needs. It's pretend emotional needs being fulfilled by somebody hitting a heart button or double tapping their Instagram picture. That doesn't replace actual parents. So, John?
Yeah. Well,
is your son is a super child.
He's building a robot John right now.
to
give him love because John abandoned him out in the living room.
Robot John gives him more screen time.
John gave him his phone and said, "Here, son, enjoy yourself." And his son said, "Great, better than talking to you, Dad."
Are you outing me right now?
Sorry. He loves you deeply.
He does. Well, okay, I can say this about my son. He's got very limited access to social media. He's 11, so he's not really. Well, actually, I don't know. Is that he's not really of age to be like on Facebook and things like that.
It's coming though. It's around the corner, so brace yourself.
But he does have a little YouTube channel that he does little videos.
There you go.
But that was a passing thing. He only has like maybe 6 or 7 videos. Like little unboxing videos of like Legos and things that he's seen other people do.
Mm-hmm.
There is, I do think the generation you're talking about grew up with information. I think there is, more knowledge, more information, more misinformation, more discourse available. I do think there is a little bit of a trend of them turning away from some of the social aspects of social media.
Mm-hmm. As you said, Alex has.
Alex has, but I think even younger too. I think they're beginning to maybe tire of that, or there's some other thing. One of the things that's interesting to me is that I think that generation has more of an awareness of public discourse, of cameras and media presences are so common, whether it's just your camera, that presentationally, they are less afraid of being in front of people, being on camera.
Absolutely.
And again, these are generalizations because I don't think that's, but I just think they are, I mean, when you saw those Parkland kids go up in front of hundreds of thousands of people and be so eloquent and really like moving and really speak from the heart. And I see that more and more with that era of they're not afraid to speak their opinion. They do have this knowledge. They bring it to bear, and they're very passionate about it. To me, it's very heartening. I would like to think they're going to find the right balance of not being so like sucked into the Borg of whatever's into the matrix of things, and actually might have this activism is really heartwarming to me.
Yeah, no, snark aside, I'm excited and hopeful for that too.
Yeah.
And I do, in that sort of whatever arc of the moral universe kind of thing. Like if I never called my senator about gun control when Obama was president or when Clinton was and I sit there going, if we had been this active, after Newtown, when everyone wanted something done, we could have maybe had something, we could have maybe made a difference, and we didn't. And so it's only now that we're sort of that the progressives and even the center in this country, basically the reasonably sane and thoughtful, I don't know, 3/4, let's say, that can meet in the middle somewhere has been activated. Only when things are this dire are we now marching and calling and doing that stuff. And I think maybe this generation growing up seeing it will be more comfortable making that being more active citizens more regularly.
Yeah. I think we planted the seeds of that next generation of real progressive change in government and in high-profile places that are really, I really do.
We did it, guys. We did it.
Yeah,
good for us.
We're just breeders.
Sometimes you got to drive the car into the ditch to teach the next generation how to tow it out.
They are marching against our inaction. You do realize that?
Oh yeah. No, when I was
we gave them something to do.
When I was 17, I was my two biggest focuses were collecting Daredevil comics and touching my first boobie.
Ah,
that was it.
So how's the progress on those?
Is that Jasper laughing back there?
All right, so
by the way, still waiting to do one of those.
All right, gotcha. Well, Godspeed.
Happy birthday.
So what's Twitter trending?
Charlotte?
And what's Twitter trending? I can't say the name of this feature. What's Twitter trending? This morning I found hashtag make a band sickly. Do you have that?
Oh, that's great.
All right. So John or Thomas,
this is so good.
Can you please read the top finalists?
Let's see. Make a band sickly.
Yeah.
One infection.
Mm-hmm.
REO sneeze wagon.
On repeat.
Nice.
Yep.
Let me zoom in. Def Leppard.
Pandemic at the Disco.
Pandemic at the Disco. The Backache Boys.
Yeah.
Wow.
Love it.
These are good.
I tweeted the Herpy G's, but so far waiting for a retweet. Yeah, that's what I had. That's all I had to offer. Sorry, kids. And then on Facebook feed time, Michael Austin posted, and I kind of just love this to end our show. Doris Day turns 96 today. Look at her. Happy birthday to Doris Day, born April 3rd, 1922. We love Doris. Photo taken this week.
Doesn't look a day over 96.
She looks lovely.
She does look great.
She looks like she's in the bathtub answering the phone, and it's Rock Hudson.
Really, you think?
That would scare the shit out of her if that actually happened.
It's robot Rock Hudson.
That must have happened in at least one Doris Day movie, because somehow that just flashed into my mind.
Of course it did.
With that, Google that and see if that actually did. Was that a thing?
I wonder
that exists?
what year Doris Day was born.
All right, happy birthday, Doris Day. And Charla Morgan, did she know that she shared a birthday with Doris Day?
She's got to know that because she loved those movies like you. Yeah. Hate those movies.
And Kirk Rudell is like the smartiest pants of all #TV sitcom writers.
I know. Honestly, this, for two incredibly goofy human beings, three, this was not the most laugh-filled TIFO
no, but
podcast.
we did solve a lot of world problems.
We really did.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some major changes.
Yeah,
unless people start boycotting this.
You get
podcast.
a few writer firefighters around the microphones, and stuff happens.
All right,
figure it out.
All right, I'll see you soon, Caroline Pauls. Thanks for starring. Thanks for starring in my film, and I'll see you guys next week because we want to be your new favorite podcast. Goodbye, everybody.